All right, let me get some light on there. That's better. How's everybody doing tonight? Tonight is Ask Me Anything. I got some emails I'll talk about, and if you join and you have something you want to ask me, just type it in there. So if you have a question, King Daniel, just type it in there. I'll do my best to answer it. I got a lot of comments and questions. By the way, I have a cold, so you're gonna have to excuse me. I might be sneezing. I got a bit of a head cold, and as you can probably tell, I'm not in New Hampshire right now. I'm in Florida, but I do have my Wolfboro sweatshirt on. But yeah, I got comments and questions about the Army-Navy game, so I thought I would talk a little bit about that since I posted some videos about it. It's just a wonderful experience, and I go pretty much every year. And hi, Diane. If you have a question, just type it in there. So, yeah, I go every year, and next year, 2023, the Army-Navy game is going to be at Gillette Stadium. So I would, I would urge you, if you can, go down to it. It's a spectacle. It's unlike any other game you've been to. And I've been to Super Bowls, all the major college bowl games, been to a lot of football games, and the Army-Navy game's, quite a spectacle. Now, having said that, we know the style of football can be boring. Both teams run, an option offense, and we're used to seeing these days football teams throw the ball over the field. But if you engage, it is something. So hold on, I got a text here. So there's some questions I got about the people I had videos with and about the game itself. I went to a tailgate before the game, and it was what's it called? Horse Soldier Bourbon. And hi, John, how are you? And this is a bourbon company that was started by, I think, 5 or 6 or 7 of the war heroes, the soldiers from that movie 12 Strong, the ODA 595. And so I had an opportunity to visit with them some, and it was awesome. Really good guys, really humble guys, happy, loving life, very upbeat. But these were guys that were actually, the ones that they made the movie about, and they were telling me, who was playing who, and I can't remember. But that was quite the experience. I actually spent time with a few of them in the game, and I got a runny nose. And Senator Joni Ernst was at their tailgate, and when you saw pictures of Tiffany Smiley, who ran for the U.S. Senate in Washington State and lost, and her husband Scotty, who my light just went out. Sorry about that. Who's a West Point graduate and, was blown up by a suicide bomber in Iraq, and he's blind now. So that was fun. And then I got to meet through my friend Sage Steele, and her dad Gary Steele is a Army football legend. And actually was one of my coaches at West Point, and he sits on the board of the athletic department with me. So I got to know Sage Steele through the years, and those of you who don't know, Sage is Sage is on ESPN, and so she had a friend there named Chris, and it was really funny because we were sitting there Friday night, and all these young women were coming up and sort of sneaking pictures of this guy Chris. I didn't know who he was, so I finally thought, what's going on here? And I asked him, I said, why are all these young women taking pictures of you? Well, he used to be one of the hosts on that TV show, The Bachelor and the Bachelorette. So a show that I've never seen. So at any rate, everyone wanted to take his picture and be in a picture with him. Good guy, really good guy. The game was exciting. And of course, I was very happy that Army won. So it was a wonderful weekend. Remember, next year it's at Gillette Stadium. If you can, go. And I'm sure there'll be tickets available, although it ends up being a sellout. So buy tickets as soon as you can. So and I could go on and on talking about the Army-Navy game. You saw enough videos. I don't need to do that. But I did get some questions, and people asked me to, share some thoughts about, the situation at the southern border. And I've talked about this before, but, I started thinking about it more, and the overall immigration system in the United States is a mess. There's no question. And having a border where I think this year over 2 million is what they're estimating came across the border illegally, and in addition, some 100,000. Thousands, I think 2 or 3 or 400,000 of what they call gotaways. That's not a good situation. But politically, this has been a problem for a very, very, very long time. I happen to believe neither the Republicans nor the Democrats really want to solve the problem. I think for different reasons. I think some people like the idea of people coming across for the purpose of providing cheap labor to business. I think some people like to see all these people coming in illegally because someday they hope they will become citizens and become voters. But neither party has really made any compromises to solve the problem at the southern border. And here's how I was thinking about it. Think about the human cost of what's happening at the southern border, and and I know a lot of times that people on the left will say, oh, these people are coming from bad economic circumstances, so we need to be compassionate. I don't know that it's so compassionate to provide incentive for those folks to make that journey, and we know some of them die on the journey. I read a statistic a year or two ago that as many as a third of the girls and the women get raped on the journey. So it's a horrible journey, and it's not. So that doesn't seem so compassionate to me. And then those folks, they come in the United States, and then someone's got to care for them, and we're a compassionate country, and and so we end up spending a lot of money caring for these people, and which we're Americans, we will do. I mean, I'm not criticizing that, but it's expensive, and then here's the other thing. I mean, think about the number of deaths from fentanyl that's come across that border. I mean, it's, I think this year there was over 100,000 opioid deaths. I don't think all of those was from fentanyl from the border, but certainly tens of thousands, were from fentanyl. So this idea of compassion. I mean, we need to be compassionate for the American citizens who have to pay for all this, and the American citizens who are dying as a result of this. And again, excuse me, I have a cold. And if you think about it, I mean, it's been going on a long time, and we're losing tens of thousands over the years, if not hundreds of thousands, as a result of the opioid crisis. And we don't, we hear about it, but we don't get too engaged in it. I think more of the media is starting to cover it now. But I looked, I did a little research and Googled how many Americans were killed in the global war on terrorism from post 9/11, and this amazed me. I mean, and I think these numbers are accurate. We had 7,000 soldiers killed in the global war on terrorism, and 8,000 contractors killed during the global war on terrorism. And politically, that was, hey Ray, how you doing? Yeah, it was a great Army victory. Thanks for jumping on. Have a good dinner. And politically, I mean, Americans did not accept, the deaths, the injured, what happened to our soldiers, the cost of that. And yet, some say that what's going on at the southern border is in fact an invasion, and one could make that argument, and it's costing a lot of money, to take care of all these folks long term. I mean, I read an estimate where there's an estimate that as many as 5 million might come in next year, and then the deaths not of Americans and those people making the journey, and the hardships and the cost. I mean, but we don't get the political pressure put on politicians from this kind of invasion as we did on the injured and those who died in the global war on terrorism. So it's just interesting to me. As I said, the politics of the southern border, I think, are complicated. I personally believe that politicians, both on the left and the right in Washington D.C., really don't want to solve it, and I think don't want to reform the entire immigration system, because not only do you have to secure the border, you have to also deal with these visa overstays. There's a lot of people in this country that fly in here on a visa, and they come in legally, but their visa expires and they don't leave, and they're here illegally too. And it is surprising to me, and I shouldn't say surprising. It's bewildering to me that Washington D.C. does not have the political will to solve this problem, secure the border, reform the immigration system. I happen to be someone who believes that that you secure the border, and then you let a lot of people in legally. I think I think right now we let in about 1 million a year legally. I think it should be a lot more than that. I mean, we are the great melting pot, and which I guess isn't so good of a way to describe it these days, but we are. I mean, my grandparents on my mother's side both immigrated from Lebanon. I'm half Lebanese, and they came to America. They came through Ellis Island. They became they ran a successful restaurant. So I think the only way that Washington, D.C. is going to muster the political courage to solve this is for we the people to put pressure on them, both from the left and the right, and that's the only way that we're going to solve it. And the kind of pressure that was put on Washington, D.C. about the global war on terrorism, and there's just a lot of bad things happening with these people coming in illegally. I think the number is 98 on the terror watch list. So got some questions about that. The other sort of common theme I heard is, what can Republicans do to win elections? And this frustration with everyone expecting this red wave, and it certainly was not that. And people were expecting this red wave because the political environment, was really good for Republicans, and the Democrats did a good job of making abortion an issue and making democracy an issue, and threat to democracy, which of course was a result of what Trump did with the whole election denial stuff on January 6th. And so the Democrats deserve credit for that, but we Republicans, we need to regroup. And so this whole idea of what we can do is better to win, I would say the number one thing that we should do as Republicans is, and Democrats are so much better at this than we are, is, we need to come together to support our candidates. We tend to fight amongst ourselves in public, and and if a far preferred candidate doesn't win a primary, we tend to not support that candidate and continue to fight. A good example of that, in my opinion, is you look at New Hampshire. I mean, the most popular politician is Governor Sununu, and he's I would describe him as a moderate with some conservative policies. I mean, small government, low taxes, those things for sure. But far too many Republicans and Republican groups have attacked Governor Sununu viciously, and as a result, he wins big, and our Republican federal candidates lose big, and we barely kept the state house. We did good in the state Senate, but excuse me, if we could coalesce around Governor Sununu's political power and work as a team to win and leverage his political power instead of you know, attacking him right through the election, it would greatly increase our chances of winning some of these federal seats and doing better in the state house and making New Hampshire bright red. But we tend to, have different groups in the party that if they don't get their way, their response is to attack, and not support. I'm going to go home and not vote. And we have to stop that. We absolutely have to stop that. It is not a recipe for victory. But the Democrats are really good at coming together. They're really good at getting around their candidates and supporting their candidates and working together, because they know the most important thing is to win elections. We have too many factions who think the most important thing is their issue, whatever their issue might be. And if a politician isn't going to support them in their issue, then they don't want to play ball. They don't want to support the politician. They want to take their ball and go home. That's not being a good teammate. So I think that's the biggest thing we need to do. Now, listen, we can have internal debates. I get it. Absolutely. But there's a time and a place for those debates. And then, when it's game time, when it's election time, we got to put all that stuff aside and work together to win these elections. So those emails about what we can do, I would say that's the number one thing. Of course, there's a bunch of other things, but I think the number one thing is we've got to work together to win and not carry our disagreements through the election, and take those differences to attack our candidates. It's just silly, and we're not going to win if we keep doing that. Well, listen, I'm fighting this cold tonight. I've been going about 23 minutes. I usually go a half hour, but I'm going to jump off now because of this cold. So listen, thanks for watching. I'm going to take a few weeks off with Christmas next week and New Year's. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. You know how to get a hold of me if you need to. God bless you, and God bless America. Thanks so much.